It's from Marilyn Monroe, and she wore it in the film Some Like It Hot. A friend of mine, Don Feld, who was a costume designer in Hollywood, gave it to me.
Do you have any idea where Don got it?
I don't know, but I assume he probably got it from Western Costume Company.
In 1959, Marilyn Monroe lit up the screen in Some Like It Hot, a film that would go down as one of Hollywood's greatest comedies. But behind the glamour was Ori Kelly, the legendary costume designer who tailored Marilyn's look with breathtaking precision. One of his creations, a jet-black peau de soie cocktail dress trimmed in swaying fringe, wasn't just designed for Marilyn. It was sewn to her body to ensure that perfect, sultry fit. The dress is shockingly small, a reminder of how petite Monroe really was, yet it carried enormous presence on screen. With each turn and dance step, the fringe shimmered under the lights, accentuating her every movement. This particular gown surfaced years later, passed down through Hollywood's costume circles, eventually tied back to Western Costume Company, and authenticated with both Marilyn's name and production notes. Photographs from the film confirm what the owner already knew. This was the very dress worn by Marilyn Monroe in one of her most iconic roles. Appraisers called it what it truly is, an artifact of film history, a relic of the world's most enduring sex symbol.
In an auction, I would not be surprised at all if it went for somewhere between $150,000 and $250,000.
Oh my God. Whoa.
And actually, with the unpredictability of the market for this type of item, it would not surprise me at all if it went much higher.
Wow.
I'm just going to be conservative here because I don't want to get you too excited.
I'm about ready to fall over.
Oh, well, please don't.
Oh, you made me very happy. I mean,
Well, great.
It's great.
Here we are in the home of the king, and you've brought us an outfit that belonged to Elvis Presley. Where did you get this outfit?
My husband bought it at an auction in 1975 in Germantown, Tennessee. The JCs auctioned it off. They went to Graceland to acquire something that belonged to Elvis, and Vernon Presley was gracious enough to give them this particular suit, along with a letter that he signed saying it was Elvis's suit.
Elvis Presley wasn't just the king of rock and roll. He was also the king of style. Flashy, bold, and unforgettable, his stage outfits became as iconic as the music itself. Purchased at the time for just $1,250, it became a tangible piece of the king's legacy. Handmade and one of a kind, the suit shows signs of wear, suggesting it wasn't just sitting in a closet. Elvis may very well have performed in it, its fabric bearing the marks of movement and sweat from nights on stage. But without a photograph of him wearing it, the exact history is difficult to lock down.
Well, if this happened to be one of those outfits that he wore in his '68 comeback tour, it would be worth a great deal of money, probably about $100,000. I've talked to several people here, and they seem to feel it's probably a little bit later, probably in the late '60s, early '70s, and probably for Vegas. If he wore it at that time, it would probably be worth about $30,000. And if, on the other hand, he just owned it but never wore it, it would drop down to around $15,000. So today we really can't come up with a definite value because we need to know more information about that. But anyway, even if it's worth just $15,000, that's all right, Mama.
That's all right. And if anyone has a picture of him wearing it, I would sure like to have that picture.
Right.
Legends often leave behind more than just memories. They leave artifacts that capture their very spirit. Such is the case with this radiant photograph of Marilyn Monroe, signed in her own hand and inscribed personally to the family of a musician who once played for her circle of friends.
I inherited this through my family. I had an uncle, Jack Petrie, who was a gifted musician, and he played for Fred Karger off and on, who was in charge of the music for Columbia Studios. Fred Karger was her vocal coach.
How did this picture come about?
He had to go pick her up at the airport in Los Angeles, and my grandparents were there on vacation. And that's why it says to Mom and Pop Pete. But I'm in doubt about the signature. I don't know whether the signature was Marilyn's or if it was a secretary that mailed it to them. They didn't get it that day. They got it later.
This glamorous portrait, taken by Frank Powolny, the famed 20th century Fox photographer who also shot the iconic image Warhol later immortalized, was created as publicity for Gentlemen Prefer Blondes in 1953. Unlike many secretarial signed photographs sent out to fans, this one was authenticated as a true Marilyn signature, written boldly across her hair in clear ballpoint pen. What elevates this piece further is the personal story tied to it. A gift directly connected to the guest's family, not just an anonymous autograph in circulation. Combined with its large size and striking glamour shot quality, this makes it an especially desirable collector's item.
I think conservative, you would expect to get anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000 at auction.
I'm floored. I lived with this photo from the time I was a child, had no idea, and it's just been hanging around. So that's amazing. That's amazing.
In the past 2 years, a few have sold for as much as $50,000 and $63,000 that were, I would say, comparable in quality to yours. So if it did do well in excess of that estimate, I wouldn't be surprised, because there are only so many of these out there that are authentic. And again, having your story is pretty fantastic.
My goodness, yes.
If I were to insure it, I would probably put no less than $50,000 on it.
That's great.
Every now and then, history and celebrity intertwine in ways that seem almost too perfect to believe. That's exactly what happened at a Marilyn Monroe house party in the early 1950s, where music, baseball, and Hollywood magic collided.
1953, my grandmother was dating a jazz musician who happened to be a member of Marilyn Monroe's backup band. Marilyn decided to have a party at her house to show her appreciation to the band, and she showed up a couple of hours late, but when she came, she brought a baseball signed by the entire team and Joe DiMaggio, and hand-signed them and handed out about 10 of them to the guests.
And this is a photograph of the party.
And my grandmother is second from the right on the top.
What makes this particular baseball even more remarkable is the documentation. A period photograph showing Marilyn at the party holding one of the balls, and a 1952 magazine article about the event. Normally, having a non-player signature on a team ball lowers its value, but Monroe is the one shining exception. Her link to DiMaggio, the Yankees captain and her future husband, elevates this piece into something far beyond ordinary sports memorabilia.
This baseball is beautiful and it's in great shape, and it would probably be worth around $5,000 to $7,000. But Marilyn signed it, and I would insure it for, say, $15,000 at the very least. Not bad.
No.
Not bad, considering you didn't have a ticket today, did you?
No, I was supposed to be at a family reunion this weekend, and I decided I couldn't pass this up, and I didn't have a ticket, so I went and begged for one. It was worth it.
It's one of the most incredible signed baseballs I've ever seen.
Oh, good.
It's magnificent, and congratulations.
Yeah, it's priceless to me. It's family heirloom, basically.
In 1954, Marilyn Monroe traveled overseas with Joe DiMaggio on their honeymoon. He to train with ball players in Japan, and she to lift the spirits of American troops in Korea. But before she could take the stage, even Hollywood's brightest star had to go through the same process as every other visitor to a military base: fingerprinting and a Defense Department ID photo.
So this is my stepdad. He was in the Army and he was stationed in Tokyo, Japan. So he was not the photographer that took this picture. He just happened to be there at the same time because that was the location they took her to do her ID. When Marilyn Monroe came over to entertain the troops, she had to stop off and do the military official ID process.
So he got to meet her.
Yeah. He thought she was wonderful, very down to earth, sweet, kind. She asked them a lot of questions about what they do, and he said her beautiful energy just exuded through, and that's what he held on to all those years.
For him, The moment was so vivid that he told the story for decades, even long after the photo itself had been tucked away in a filing cabinet. Discovered years later by his family, the picture isn't just a rare glimpse of Monroe. It's a frozen moment from one of the most celebrated chapters of her life, when she performed for over 100,000 servicemen in just 4 days. The appraiser called it the only copy they had ever seen outside the original used on her ID card.
We know it's vintage. At auction, a pre-sale estimate that I would put on it is about $4,000 to $6,000. And I would expect it to sell for probably $6,000 or $8,000.
That's crazy.
That's a lot per square inch.
Yeah, it is.
The ID that Marilyn was issued that shows this photo, now in the photo ID that she was given, the U.S. Department of Defense ID, she signed it. And in the photo, you can actually see a February 4th below the Norma Jean. So it has the date on it. That ID sold in 2008 for $57,000. Wow. You got this. What did your sister get?
She got the house. It's special to me, regardless of what it's worth.
In the glittering world of Las Vegas, Elvis Presley was known not just for his music, but for his generosity and his taste for the extravagant. In 1977, the king presented a remarkable gift to comedian Redd Foxx, a massive 18-karat gold wristwatch weighing nearly 170 grams and sparkling with diamonds and deep blue sapphires. On the back, Elvis had it inscribed, "To Redd from Elvis, Hilton Hotel, 1977. That same year, Elvis would pass away, making the watch one of his final personal gifts. Years later, when Redd Foxx faced IRS troubles, his lawyer stepped in to help.
Redd Foxx was a client of mine from 1989 till his passing in 1991. Redd Foxx definitely needed a lawyer. One of his opening acts was a client of mine, and he referred me to Redd. Redd was a little cash-strapped, but we helped him out a lot, and that's how he paid me. He gave me the watch that he had gotten from Elvis Presley.
Short on cash, Fox handed over the Elvis watch as partial payment. The lawyer tucked it away safely, never wearing it, knowing he was holding something extraordinary. The appraiser described it as a tour de force, not subtle, but pure Elvis. Even without its history, the gold alone carried nearly $10,000 in melt value.
You have really high-quality diamonds, beautiful sapphires. The color on the sapphires is really great, but it's a really beautifully made, high-quality piece. I think a conservative estimate at auction, I would feel very comfortable at least $80,000 to $120,000.
That paid the bill easily.
Should you find an image of Elvis wearing this watch, certainly worth looking into, because that could add another layer of value to it.
Absolutely.
Not every treasure comes in gold or diamonds. Sometimes it's as fragile as a tissue. In 1954, during Marilyn Monroe's legendary tour of Korea, she performed 10 shows in just 4 days, lifting the spirits of over 100,000 soldiers. For one Marine, the experience was unforgettable. After sneaking into her dressing room, he carefully saved a simple Kleenex that Marilyn had used to blot her lipstick, and mailed it home with a letter proudly proclaiming it as pure Marilyn Monroe. The letter itself, written on official Marine stationery and postmarked the very next day, provides ironclad proof of the story.
It says, "Here's a real treat for yous, some pure Marilyn Monroe. She put on a show this afternoon at our division. Yes,
that's
and man, I had a ringside seat. Was with the PA system crew, got some good movies of her. Then we were the first in her dressing room, and I got off with my prize, Kleenex she used on her lipstick. What a prize. Guess I'm really cracking up, huh? This letter is everything."
The lipstick-stained tissue, preserved alongside that letter and envelope, has become a relic of one of her most personal moments with the troops. The appraiser admitted his first instinct was disbelief. How could anyone prove a used tissue belonged to Marilyn? But the timing, the documents, and the first-hand account made the case airtight.
Anything connected with Marilyn's performance there is pretty extraordinary, in my mind.
Oh, I totally agree. It's amazing.
So, now we're left with, what's it worth? I mean, this is a single-ply military-issue tissue. This is not a luxurious item. But because Marilyn touched it and her lipstick's on there, I think conservatively an auction estimate would be at least $3,000 to $5,000.
Oh, wow.
And I can't imagine that there wouldn't be some Marilyn collectors who would definitely compete for that because it's such a unique artifact.
Yeah, that's amazing.
When Hugh Hefner launched Playboy in December 1953, he had just $1,000 borrowed from his mother, a kitchen in Chicago for an office, and one gamble that would make history, putting Marilyn Monroe on the cover. She wasn't yet the global icon we remember, but the sweetheart of the month in that first issue lit the spark that turned Playboy into a cultural phenomenon.
They were my grandfather's. He loved beautiful women and taking pictures of beautiful women. So when Playboy came out, he thought, what a perfect magazine. Got them each one by one, saved them all, and over the years, Grandma kind of lost her pizzazz with them.
She knew about your grandfather owning them?
Oh, yeah.
No problem there?
She had no problem with them owning them.
They weren't under the bed or anything?
No.
No.
Out in the open. They didn't have any problems with it. It was just when it came time for them to move or when she wanted to clean the house, she'd want to throw them out.
Right.
And he kept saying no, no, no. And then finally he would agree and he lowered his collection incredibly down to just this. When he passed, she still wanted to throw them away and we said no.
Right.
What this guest brought in wasn't just one magazine. It was the first 12 issues, spanning late 1953 through 1954. These early volumes hold far more than glamorous photography. They introduced a new kind of magazine for men, blending bold imagery with some of the greatest writers of the time. Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 first appeared here in serialized form, alongside works by Kerouac, Vonnegut, and Ian Fleming. Even the famous bunny logo wasn't in the debut. It appeared for the first time in the second issue, quietly hopping into history.
Have you ever had them appraised or any sense of the value?
No.
Well, the first issue was printed in over 50,000 copies.
Wow.
Which, of course, for a publication is a modest number, but means there's a lot of them out there. Some have sold for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, the first issue.
Whoa.
But this one and the rest of the ones that you have, because they were obviously read and well loved,
yes.
are not in the best of condition.
No.
For a set in this condition, I would estimate at auction that I would have an estimate of $2,500 to $3,500.
Oh my goodness.
So it was a good idea of you to stop your grandmother from throwing them away.
Absolutely.
When you think of Marilyn Monroe's legacy, it's often the gowns, the photographs, or the Hollywood stories that come to mind. But sometimes, the most touching mementos are the smallest, tokens passed in private moments. This delicate little group of crystals carries a story of friendship. They once belonged to Marilyn herself and were later given to her close friend, Ralph Roberts. Roberts wasn't just her masseur. He was her confidant, the one who helped calm her nerves during the filming of The Misfits in 1961. He even drove her to Roxbury, Connecticut, when she returned to the home she had shared with Arthur Miller to collect her belongings after their separation. It was during that deeply personal moment, as the letter he later wrote explains, that Marilyn handed him this box of crystals with my love. Over time, Roberts cherished them, even arranging them into the shape of a heart. And in later years, he passed them to a trusted friend along with his written account and a photograph of himself with Marilyn, preserving the authenticity of the story. Though they may appear to be simple chandelier drops, their meaning comes from that intimate connection. Collectors of Monroe memorabilia know the power of her name.
So because they're Marilyn Monroe's, at auction, we would probably put an estimate of $2,000 to $3,000
Really?
on this little group of crystals.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. I'm glad to know more about it.
Hollywood in the late 1940s had a heartbeat, and one of the places where it pulsed strongest was Ero's Nightclub on Sunset Boulevard, a place where stars gathered under the glow of flashbulbs.
These are from my mom. In 1949, she came to LA to be a movie star. And she was walking down Sunset Boulevard, and two men stopped her and said, "Do you need a job?" And she said yes, and she went into Ciro's, where they recommended she go. And she got a job immediately, and she was a cigarette girl there. This is a picture of her right here.
Oh, wow.
And then her best friend was the main photographer there, so When her best friend passed away about 30 years ago, my mom inherited these.
We have a time capsule of glamour preserved in nearly 300 photographs. Among them are candid treasures, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz caught mid-laugh, Elizabeth Taylor sharing a table with Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan in his pre-presidential days, and, of course, Marilyn Monroe, radiant and magnetic even off-screen. Each image is more than a picture. It's a snapshot of a vanished world where Hollywood royalty mingled in public, framed forever in silver gelatin.
At auction, I would expect an unseen photo of Marilyn to sell for about $100, $150.
Okay.
And for the rest of them, same. Elizabeth Taylor, it's interesting that it's with Nixon, probably $50 to $75. For these photos, probably $30 to $50 a piece.
Okay.
It adds up quickly when you have a big collection.
Yes, it does. Okay, great. Thank you.
When Elvis Presley stepped into the role of Danny Fisher in King Creole, 1958, he wasn't just making another movie. He was about to make history. The film was shot in New Orleans under the direction of Michael Curtis, and Elvis himself later admitted it was his favorite role of all time. What makes this particular poster extraordinary is that it captures Elvis in a rare dual moment, both as the rising Hollywood star and as the young man about to leave it all behind for the U.S. Army. The poster wasn't from the film's original 1958 release, but from a special re-release printed for military base theaters. That detail alone places it in a unique category. The military connection is underscored by the design, showing Elvis in uniform, which symbolized the transformation of America's most rebellious rock and roll star into a soldier serving his country. Family lore tells us it was taken down from a base theater by the guest's grandmother's boyfriend, folded up, and hidden away for years before being framed as a birthday gift.
The condition we see, of course, is that it has the fold lines. It was mailed to the theater. We go back to what you talked about at first, how it was for military use only. So you mentioned that it's believed this was on a base, and we know from the family story this was on a base. So the difficulty in this poster is figuring out the exact year it was printed. So one of the things we do know is it does say that it's a re-release. So it was not printed in 1958. It also has him in his military uniform, which we know he didn't report until March.
In fact, no other copy of this specific military re-release poster has been documented, making it exceptionally scarce. Because of that rarity, appraisers place its value much higher.
I'd put an estimated auction of at least $1,200 to $1,500.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, it's not going anywhere either way, so...
A small but deeply personal moment from Elvis Presley's time in the Army, a photograph showing him carrying a stencil used to mark his barracks bag. The guest, who took the picture herself, explained that Elvis held the stencil in his mouth because his hands were full while he moved about the base. The stencil bears his name and service number. The story became more symbolic when, years later, a fan asked which corner of the stencil Elvis had held in his mouth, and then kissed that exact corner. At auction, this kind of image, with unique provenance and connection to Elvis's military service, is estimated...
You had told me a cute story about a woman who had come and said which corner did he have in his mouth, and then found that corner and she kissed it.
In the mid-1950s, Shreveport, Louisiana, was the beating heart of country music thanks to the legendary radio program Louisiana Hayride. It was here, in 1955, that a teenage fan brought along her program book and ended up with the autographs of two men who were about to change music forever. She recalls seeing a young Elvis Presley standing on the steps, barely recognized by the public and earning just $18 a show. With his boyish charm and movie star looks, he signed her book. Johnny Cash was there too, waiting backstage during intermission, and he also obliged with his signature. Neither was yet a household name. In fact, their names didn't even appear in the official program. They simply weren't famous enough.
Elvis started doing the Louisiana Hayride shows mid-1954.
Yeah.
He'd taped That's All Right at Sun Studios, and that was kind of the song that he led with. Colonel Parker got him a one-year contract. And so he ended up staying until about 1956, and that's that famous show where Horace Logan says Elvis has left the building.
Right.
That's all happening at the Louisiana Hayride, so it's a very historic venue. But to also have Johnny Cash there.
Yeah, the two of them.
And all of this happens a year before the $1 Million Quartet, where you have Johnny Cash and Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis and Carl Perkins recording at Sun Studios together. The Louisiana Hayride is such a historic venue because it launched the career of so many country artists. I mean, the list really goes on for days. And it was just the place to be seen. The program itself.
What makes these autographs extraordinary is their rarity. Both Elvis and Cash were so early in their careers that their signatures hadn't yet settled into the iconic forms collectors know today. They're raw, undeveloped, authentic traces of two future legends just learning to sign their names for adoring fans. The Louisiana Hayride was the launching pad for countless stars, but having both Presley and Cash together on one piece, from this exact moment before fame truly struck, is historic.
At auction for the program, I would put between $5,000 and $7,000.
Oh, really? I had no idea. Really, that's fantastic. I'm glad I kept it all these years. Oh, I was about to run out of my bucket list of getting on the Antiques Roadshow. I was hoping I could come sometime, so this is wonderful. And at the time, I was wishing I had a piece of paper that I could have had them autographed, but it's probably better that it's on the Hayride book.
In the glittering world of Las Vegas, Elvis Presley wasn't just the king of rock and roll. He was a legend who made the Hilton Hotel his home for nearly a decade. One night, after the music faded and the crowds dispersed, Elvis showed his appreciation in a way only he could, with a gift. A bartender named Lucky, who served Elvis his late-night drinks, was handed one of the king's flamboyant costume belts. Elvis had lived at the Hilton for years, and the staff there often became his second family. His cousin, who worked as a chef, remembered whipping up Elvis's favorite odd combinations, like banana sandwiches or even pie topped with cake. The belt, however, was more than just an accessory. Made of bullion wire thread and adorned with rhinestones, it captured Elvis's 1970s style.
It's all made out of bullion wire thread. These are rhinestones, and Elvis was the dancer, and so even in his 70s period, he was probably out there gyrating and sending those fringes in all different directions. We have the tie to your family, which is good, so there's good provenance there.
While the family story provides strong provenance, the absence of a photo or inscription keeps its value conservative.
So I'm going to be conservative on the estimate. I'm going to say at auction it would be $3,000 to $4,000.
That's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
In 1956, Elvis Presley was a rising star, his name crackling across radio waves and his concerts igniting hysteria. In San Antonio, a local radio station ran a contest. Write why you deserved a date with Elvis, and you just might win. One young woman, working as a secretary at a clothing store called Vogue, decided to enter. But she didn't just scribble on a postcard. She wrote a heartfelt poem. Her co-workers joined in the excitement, and the store's sign painter created a massive hand-painted postcard, complete with stamp and address. Delivered to the station, it caught everyone's eye, and her poem sealed the deal. She won. The prize was unforgettable.
So the Vogue store was very excited about it, and so they donated the dress and the outfits for her, and she went to like a press conference, and she got to sit backstage for 2 of the concerts that he played in town here, and he would wink at her from the stage, and she just felt so tickled, and then they went out for dinner as a group. I mean, it was a large group of people. She wasn't like on a date with him and anything like that, but it was a really big moment in her life.
Elvis personally signed her giant postcard. To Marie, my very best to you. Love you, Elvis Presley. A photograph captured the moment he signed it, cementing its authenticity. While Elvis autographs from 1956 are not especially rare, most are on photos or scraps of paper. This piece stands apart, a one-of-a-kind hand-painted postcard tied to a radio contest, a poem, and an unforgettable memory.
At auction, conservatively, I would estimate this at $3,000 to $5,000.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. Your mom did good. I mean, not only did she get to meet Elvis, but she left you an amazing legacy. And if you wanted to insure it, you should insure it for $7,500 because there's no way to get another one.
Wow.
By the summer of 1977, Elvis Presley's health was declining, but his legend was bigger than ever. Fans packed arenas for what would become his final tour.
When I was about 16, I went to see Elvis a couple months before he passed in Madison, Wisconsin at the Dane County Coliseum. He threw out a scarf and I caught it with another woman, and she and I were going to cut it in half. And this man jumped out of the second row and he went to punch me to take my scarf away. And it startled me and I let go, and he hit her, and I'm not quite sure what happened with the scarf, who got it. I'm not sure if Elvis saw what happened or what, but he just walked over to me, he bent down, he handed me that scarf, and I grabbed it and shoved it down in my pants.
You put it in your pants?
I put it in my pants. And I ran back to my seat. My brother was asking me, did you get one? Did you get one? And I said, yeah. And he's like, let me see it. And I'm like, no.
Just 2 months earlier, at his Green Bay concert, another fan had a nearly identical story.
Well, I went to the April concert right next door at the Brown County Arena, April 28, 1977.
And what show did you go to?
It was in June of 77.
June 24th, 1977. How did you get your scarf?
When I got to the front and he started handing out scarves, there was a big girl next to me, and I wrapped my scarf around my hand, and she wrapped her scarf around, the other half of the scarf around her hand. And somebody said, why don't you cut it in half? And I thought, I don't want to cut it in half. So someone else, then her girlfriend said, well, let her have it, we'll get the next one, because he's right there handing them out. So I shoved it down my shirt, and I climbed back over to my seat, over all the seats, and I just never moved again.
These scarves, often mass-produced with Elvis's printed signature, were not rare in his final years. He gave away thousands, yet they remain highly collectible, valued for the story as much as the fabric itself. Today, they typically sell at auction for...
And they routinely sell anywhere between $800 and $1,200.
Oh, okay.
And you two have eerily similar stories about how you got your scarves. She shoved them down her pants, and you shoved it down your top. We have very industrious women here in Wisconsin.
Before the world knew him as the king, Elvis Presley was just a young singer out of Memphis trying to make it big at Sun Records. In the mid-1950s, he was still approachable, just another local boy with a guitar, a leather jacket, and a dream.
He was in his front yard one day on his motorcycle with his leather jacket and the hat. And so I went up to him as a little girl and I said, would you please sign these records? And he said, oh, you are an original fan. And he signed this record on both sides and kissed me on the cheek.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And he's a great guy.
Those Sun records alone are valuable pieces of rock and roll history, marking Elvis's first recordings before RCA made him an international superstar. But with his autograph and that personal story, the value rises even higher. At auction, each record today would be worth around.
And you know what? These are quite valuable. They're each worth about $2,600. Not only are they early Sun records, but they're also autographed. And your story's wonderful. And I'm so thrilled that you came in today.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
In 1959, Elvis Presley wasn't just the king of rock and roll. He was Private Presley, serving in Germany with the 32nd Armored Division. Even in uniform, though, Elvis couldn't escape his fame. One Army major in Munich recalled the day Elvis came into his office asking for an extended pass. The officer agreed, but only if Elvis signed something in return. With a grin, Elvis bartered his autograph for the pass. In fact, he signed twice, once on the official military document, where he even wrote Elvis A. Presley, and once again on a separate slip of paper, so the major would have an extra keepsake. Ordinary soldiers' passes aren't worth much today. But Elvis was no ordinary soldier, and a signed leave document from his time in Germany is incredibly rare. This was the same period when he first met a teenage Priscilla Beaulieu, the woman who would later become his wife. At auction, the loose signature would bring around...
This would be more of a $3,000 to $5,000 signature. So between the two of them, I think you have about $4,000 to $6,000 worth of autographs sitting here on your papers that have been sitting. I don't know where you keep them at home.
In my safety deposit box in the bank.
So you do keep them safe?
Yes,
Well, I'm very glad you have.
In the late 1950s, Elvis Presley wasn't just the king of rock and roll. He was also Private Presley, serving in the U.S. Army in Germany. For one officer, the story became deeply personal. Elvis wasn't just a fellow soldier, he was his Jeep driver. Letters written at the time by the officer's wife capture the extraordinary details. Her husband's first impression of Elvis as just a pop star bum, and how that perception quickly changed. The letters describe a young man determined to prove himself. Elvis told the officer he enlisted not for publicity, but to show the world he could serve with dignity, just like any other soldier. Despite the media frenzy surrounding him, those who served alongside Elvis often remembered him as personable, humble, and serious about his duty. Accompanying the letters are rare photographs of Elvis during his military years, clear, close-up shots that bring us face to face with the star at a moment when he was trying to be seen as just another soldier. Even more remarkable, the archive includes an autograph obtained directly from Elvis himself, giving the collection both personal and historical weight. On their own, the photos might fetch.
I think we're looking at more like a $5,000 to $7,000.
Wow, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. I always wondered what the value would be. I'll never sell it. Well, certainly.
If you were to insure them, I'd probably say it would be safe to put $10,000 on the grouping.
Incredible. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to check out the 2 videos now appearing on your screen.